16th of July 1993, the world was introduced to one of the most well-known movie franchises of all time, Jurassic Park. Being directed by Steven Spielberg and bringing dinosaurs to the big screen, there was no wonder the film did so well and is in many people's top 10 movie lists. With the movie's success came video games in their droves, all for multiple systems and genres. But one game rode on the success of the movie, all while being a brilliant game itself, Jurassic Park for the Sega Mega Drive. During the 1980s and the 1990s, it was standard for films to have many video games created about them, all ported to a variety of consoles. In the current day, most movie tie-in games are looked down upon and seen as easy and unimaginative cash-ins that are either too boring or take far too many liberties with the film's original story. But back then, movie games could be good and were not judged as harshly as today. Releasing only about a month after the film debuted, the Jurassic Park game hit the Sega Mega Drive, or the Sega Genesis depending on where you're from, in August 1993 across the world. It was developed by Blue Sky Software and published by Sega. The game is best described as a side-scrolling platformer, requiring the player to navigate to the end of the level to reach to the next. Levels mix up the formula slightly by placing the end goal just not at the side but also vertically, bringing into play the platforming element. Most of the gameplay is pretty traditional. 3 lives, restart of the level on death, and a health bar are all present here. With the game not having any sort of save functionality, the player is given a password at the end of every level which can be used to restore progress on the main menu. One of the unique features of the game was that there was 2 very different playable characters, each with their own levels and abilities. You could play as Professor Grant from the film, who could pick up and use different weapons, collect health packs, and tug on dinosaurs to try and escape the island. Or you could play as the villain that is now synonymous with Jurassic Park, second only to the T-Rex. A velociraptor with a vendetta against Grant, who could leap high into the air, claw and bite its way through humans, eating smaller dinosaurs as it roamed the island to heal up. This was no run-of-the-mill skin or palette swap like you see in some games. The 2 characters allowed players to experience the game in different ways and find a playstyle that best suited them. Players could also decide if they wanted to play the part of the good guy or the bad guy. Grant could collect a wide array of humane weapons, from tasers to tranquilizer darts to more violent ones to take down dinosaurs and make his way through the level, while the Raptor could kick locked open doors and sneak through vents to take down its human prey by jumping on them from above or by simply biting. Having 2 very different playable characters in the same game is something that was not really done at the time. Games before had done this, so Jurassic Park was by no means the first, but with how much effort went into the construction of the characters' mechanics, this made gamers everywhere feel like they were getting 2 games in one. Both the characters venture through many different environments on Isla Nublar as they progress through the game, from wild jungles and power plants through to the end of the game, which unites both players in the entrance hall from the visitor building that's in the original movie. Even the last boss battle for both characters takes place in front of the iconic T-Rex skeleton. Although the game sold well enough on release, critics didn't rate the game too highly. Many praised the high detail, gory graphics, the high sound quality, and the ability to play as the 2 characters all the way through their own stories. What reviewers had a big problem with was the gameplay. Many found it too boring and that the game just dragged on, getting too repetitive too fast. That being said, Jurassic Park for the Sega Mega Drive is a great game for me that brings back nostalgic memories. It takes me back to a time where the Jurassic Park series was hitting its stride. The game's controls are good enough that platforming isn't too much of an issue, and there is enough variation in levels for me to keep happily pushing through to complete both characters' stories. Speaking of the 2 characters, it's great to see a game from around that era that made 2 main playable characters in one game, and both of them not alike to the other in terms of gameplay and control. Playing either character's story feels different from each other, giving the game twice as much playtime. The game's graphics are great for the time of release. The environments, characters and assets all pull you into the Jurassic Park world while also having a much darker feel than the movie. It will give you flashbacks to the original movie, as so many of the environments, characters and dinosaurs have actually been neatly synced into the 2 and look great on the Mega Drive. If you are a fan of the Jurassic Park movies or games, this one is definitely worth picking up and giving a play. Do you know of any hidden gems in the world of video games? How about any great movie games? Let us know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.